and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is November 20th, and we're on page 54 in your magazines. And today we're going to hear the first part of a 2-day article entitled Hugs, Handshakes, and Heartfelt Greetings. Do we have a bit of alliteration here?
I believe we do. And in fact, it's something I have to say I don't do a whole lot of in my life, actually.
I don't either.
Generally, it's just like, hi, let's go. Right?
Especially not with hugs, handshakes, heartfelt greetings. I guess it's kind of cute for a title, but it'd be kind of funny in conversation.
I suppose so. There are people that have very good at warm and welcoming greetings, but I don't know, if you see someone every day other than like a spouse or family member, maybe children, do you need a really heartfelt greeting?
I guess it depends on how long you haven't seen them.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of my colleagues and I walk in my office and, hey guys, hey. And we're very comfortable and familiar with each other. I think anything more than that,
would feel artificial and less comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Leave me alone.
But that is our habit. That is our cultural habit, something we're used to, not just in the States, but also here in Taiwan. It's also mostly pretty informal.
I think so. And I wonder around the world how much a simple is enough for people. I wonder.
I want to say one thing here that I can say on behalf of a Western country. If you ever go to France and you walk into a store, like say a bakery, you must say bonjour. You must say it. If you don't say it, it's really like violating a taboo, and you will probably not get good service. You'll get a nasty look.
That's funny. I suppose this is a very culturally
determined
thing.
Yeah.
This is something that it's a little bit of cultural awareness. And I imagine it's very easy to step on landmines as you go around the world with these things. Although I like to imagine that people are fairly forgiving of foreigners, like making small cultural mistakes. Although not everybody is like that, right?
Actually, they're still pretty sensitive to it. They think that everybody knows how to say bonjour. You must have willfully not said it to me. What's wrong? Do you not like my bakery?
Yeah,
they really care.
That sounds more like them than me, but that's my take on it.
But we should actually kind of adjust to what they expect.
Sure, but that's if you know what they're expecting. If you don't know what to expect, then how can you anticipate, right? This is the chicken and egg scenario that we're stuck in here.
And you shouldn't hold it against a tourist because you can't know everything before you go. I can't remember if I did that or not. I think I did. But then she would ask me, can I help you? And I didn't know how to say in a smooth way, I'm just looking, thank you. And I just went, and then she just was standing there waiting and nothing was coming out. But anyway, bonjour can come out. Just have that ready if you go to France. So every country has their own rules. Make sure you find out about them before you go, because the first thing you do with somebody is greet them. Make sure you do it right. So again, our title is Hugs, Handshakes, and Heartfelt Greetings. Oh, I can add one more thing to that. The first time I went to the Netherlands where I was doing my PhD, so I met these people I talked with over email, and I got a kiss on each cheek, and I was going over to hug her, and we just kind of crashed into each other. This happens a lot with, if somebody's going to be kind of more than usual nice, we will hug. In Western countries, especially in America, I won't say Western countries, in North America, we'll hug. And the hug was not expected. You had to move side to side to get a kiss on each cheek. Find out ahead of time. It's awkward. It can be awkward.
Yeah, handshakes are a little bit like that, too, where you're expecting a cool handshake and they're just going for something regular and your hands miss, or they go for the fist bump and you're going for the handshake. These little miscommunications can happen.
And high fives?
Yeah.
You better be ready. Yeah, especially like with African Americans, they will give each other high fives, or sometimes they'll just do it in the air.
Kids here don't know cool handshakes. That is something that is endlessly surprising to me, and it's something I have to meaningfully teach kids how to do cool handshakes. And they think I'm like this crazy person for devoting my time to doing it. Even kids that are more outwardly interested in Western or hip-hop culture, African-American culture, the handshake is a mysterious thing to a lot of them.
I haven't learned it, so please don't do it on me. Okay. All right. So we've talked a lot about our main topic. So different ways of saying hi. They really differ. And if you don't know it, you may have a really awkward moment. So here we are, first paragraph. Most people probably don't think much about a simple hello. Occasionally, you might wave to grab someone's attention. If you're meeting someone for the first time, you might shake hands or hug them. In fact, A handshake has become a standard greeting across most of the world. However, many cultures still practice their own traditions when giving a polite welcome to a visitor.
In many Asian cultures, such as India, Thailand, and Japan, a bow is common to show respect. In India and Thailand, people typically put their hands together in the middle of their chest as a gesture of honoring the person they greet. In Japan, the depth and duration of a bow indicates the level of respect being shown to the recipient.
In the Philippines, people show respect for older people by leaning over and placing their forehead on the back of an elder's hand. In Malaysia, there's a particularly heartwarming greeting called salam. After lightly touching another's hands, a person will place their right hand over their heart and bow slightly to symbolize goodwill and sincerity.
Some cultures have more intimate customs for greetings. For example, in Western Europe, especially France, people often lightly kiss each other's cheeks when they greet to promote familiarity. In New Zealand, the Maori bring their foreheads and noses together in a sacred greeting called a hongi. In some Inuit cultures of North America's Arctic regions, family members often engage in a traditional greeting known as a kunik, where one rubs their nose against the other's cheek while quickly inhaling air several times.
Remember, you only get one chance to make a first impression. It's a good idea to learn about foreign customs on how to greet people in a friendly and appropriate way. If you're unsure about the proper procedure, then just ask for clarification. After all, a respectful greeting can greatly influence the relationships we build. Yeah, just ask about it because unless you've checked on YouTube ahead of time, it's really hard to know. And I just mentioned that awkwardness about, well, are you giving a kiss on the cheek or are you hugging? In fact, the rule on how many times you kiss changes in different parts of France. It's a different number. In the Netherlands, I believe it was 3. Don't kiss, kiss. And then France, it was 2. Go to another part of France, it's 3 again or sometimes more. You have to find out ahead of time. It's not something you're going to know just by intuition.
And what's so sticky about this is that these are matters of politeness and respect, which people value. And nobody wants to feel disrespected. Nobody wants to be dealt with impolitely. And so when people aren't observing these customs because of either ignorance or they just don't want to or they're unsure, this can create an initial sticky situation. So it is something, to your earlier point, that if you could prepare in advance and know, if you can know that this is something to watch out for, you definitely should do it.
That's right. And so the first impression I gave this person who I talked to over email was awkwardness. I didn't know. So there you go. See if you can avoid that. All right. Back to the title, Hugs, Handshakes, Heartfelt Greetings. Heartfelt is something that you feel sincerely. So sometimes you can say, hi, how are you? Okay, did you put the stuff away in the refrigerator? It's like your heart is not in it, people will feel it. So if you are really showing sincerity, it will be felt, and you should show it in how you greet people. You know, hugs are sometimes good. Handshakes are sometimes good. It really depends on the situation. Okay, our first sentence. Most people probably don't think much about a simple hello. And I guess that's true. And I think that first hello is nevertheless very important because we are judging how this person is feeling today. So if the first response I get from Chris when I say hi is a big sneeze, I go, uh-oh, Chris's allergies are acting up. I better ask about how you are. So
I agree. Yeah.
That's one thing. We can just find out how people are. If they go, oh, hi, Karen. Oh, it looks like they're happy to see me. You go, hi, and then they're busy. That's kind of a way of judging, how you should interact with them, as you continue talking.
It's always sticky with people you don't always have the best relationship with, too. There are certain people I have in mind where I don't dislike them, but because of whatever reason, I keep my distance from them. And so my greeting to them is always in the middle. It's always in the middle of the road. It's never high, but it's also never low. I never try to betray my feelings. I try to be
polite.
I try to be exceptionally professional. And I think for me, that's a good tell that I never I haven't let you win, that I'm treating you exceptionally professionally. If you see me being goofy or joking, then you know you're okay.
That's right. So there is a lot of information in that first greeting, but it's often not encoded in words. It's tone of voice, it's gestures, it's what happens next, all kinds of things. So a lot of people maybe don't think about it, but I believe on some level we do care a lot about it, and we are always watching and listening.
Yeah, especially subconsciously. It's almost something you're unaware that you're perceiving.
Because you want to make sure that this interaction will go well. Occasionally, you might wave to grab someone's attention. Now, this makes me think of campus when I know my students less well than they know me because I have a room full of students. I don't know all their names, especially at the beginning of the semester. And they go, 老师. And I go, who the heck is that?
Hey.
And they're waving. And I go, if I'm lucky, I'll remember, but sometimes I don't.
I think we've been teaching for, years now. And so our students have grown up and they're now adults. And so I know you've experienced this where you're just walking around and someone starts saying, hey, hello. And you don't know if it's like they're saying hello to the generic foreigner or this is a person from 20 years ago.
Yes, that has happened. And another former student who now works at the university, she says, I often say hi to you on campus and you don't even see me. And she says, so I just act like I didn't see you either. Oh. Okay, next sentence. If you're meeting someone for the first time, you might shake hands or hug them. Yeah, hugging. First of all, there is a gender thing there, men and women. If it's the person of the opposite sex, please be careful, especially if you're a guy. You don't go around just hugging any woman you've just met.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't have this in mind. That's true. I hands off, very hands off with women. With guys, especially men you're close with, men will hug, but how you hug is important.
Yeah.
Let me describe this. So it is not two arms around the back. That's too formal. With men, closed fist, almost like you're going to punch them in the back. You swing one arm around, kind of tap them in the back. One arm, back tap with the fist. That's it.
And it's the upper body that's engaged. You keep the lower body unengaged.
Although in sports, tapping the butt is widely accepted.
That's a special case. Right. So guys have their own code. We have actually quite a taboo over acting gay. Now, gay rights have really progressed a lot now. But I think the average, especially straight guy, they're very careful. They do not want to be labeled as gay.
Yeah, and it's something that I have a real problem with because personally, I'm, really okay with just letting people be who they want to be.
Right.
I personally have no problem. But especially guys a little bit older than me, I will say the millennial generation, I would say on average is much more okay with this than I would say the Gen X and previous. This is something, and I think Gen Z is even more progressive than the millennials in this regard. I'm an early millennial, meaning like I'm at the very beginning of them. And so I kind of see that line.
Yeah.
And I will say that the younger millennials especially are probably a lot more further away than the Gen X crowd. There's a real divide.
But even for women, because I have a lot of male friends, I don't go around hugging them. I may shake their hand. That's as far, I think, as we will go. Because with male-female relationships, you want to be careful about sending signals.
On this very topic, we're going long here, but on this very topic, there was this Canadian singer of this band called the Tragically Hip, Gordon Downey, who was regarded as like a Canadian treasure. And he died of brain cancer several years ago. And he was so famous for his greeting. Oh. It was a kiss on the mouth. It was everybody. That's right. And on his band, with his bandmates, he would regularly just go up and kiss them on the mouth.
And they accepted that.
And this was his way of greeting because his father kissed him when he was young. And he felt that presence of like, this is gay, don't do that. And so there was a lot of shame in it, and he decided to push completely against that, embrace it.
And he himself was straight?
Yes, and he would kiss everybody. And it's funny because even though I have these feelings where I really don't care, the idea of Gordon Downey kissing me in the mouth, I'm like, nah, I'm okay, man.
Okay.
I don't want to kiss your mouth.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Right. So, in fact, a handshake has become a standard greeting across most of the world, but not in all countries. Keep that in mind. Not everybody does it. However, many cultures still practice their own traditions when giving a polite welcome to a visitor. And now we're getting into the main topic of the article.
Let's go to paragraph 2. In many Asian cultures, such as India, Thailand, and Japan, A bow is common to show respect.
Okay, so here we have different ways of different routine ways of greeting people in these three countries, India, Thailand, and Japan.
When did the bow die out in like Chinese and Taiwanese kind of culture here? Do you have any idea?
It wasn't here when I lived here in the 70s. So I don't know if it's ever been here. People do bow occasionally in some formal situations.
Very formal situation.
But it is not a stylized bow. It's sort of like a thing of the moment, improvised.
Yeah, I wonder, when I came here, I did not know. I could not find information confirming or repudiating, saying, hey, no bowing. I couldn't find any information. So I said, we'll find out when we arrive.
There was a situation where we bowed regularly. That's because I went to National Taiwan Normal University. I was a student there in their master's program. And we had to get up, bow to the teacher,
right.
Greet them, to greet him or her, and then sit down. And I believe that they still do that in the Chinese literature department, not in the other departments.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, in India and Thailand, people typically put their hands together in the middle of their chest as a gesture of honoring the person they greet.
Yes, and I've seen that. I lived in Thailand for a while, and you get used to it.
In Japan, the depth and duration of a bow indicates the level of respect being shown to the recipient.
Boy, that one really shows your level. And they are very, very sensitive about who is above your eyebrows and who is below your eyebrows. Me ue, me mishta. They have this.
I'm a big fan of Mario, which you may know is part of the Nintendo company, and they still continue to bow in their international presentations. And, you know, the Nintendo Switch is red hot right now and has been since 2017.
Yeah.
However, before the Nintendo Switch, they had a video game console that just did not sell. It was kind of stuck in the middle. It had no market share, and it was a disaster for Nintendo. And the president of the company, now the late Satoru Iwata, I remember his very deep and formal bow as an apology to the customers and loyal fans of Nintendo. This was a full 90-degree bow apologizing for this. And I was like, this is both awkward and very touching at the same time.
And very serious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. In the Philippines, people show respect for older people by leaning over and placing their forehead on the back of an elder's hand. Oh, that's kind of unusual and quite interesting. In Malaysia, there's a particularly heartwarming greeting called salam. Now, that's just preparing us for the next sentence. After lightly touching another's hands, a person will place their right hand over their heart and bow slightly to symbolize goodwill and sincerity. That is quite elaborate.
So I was thinking about these various methods of heartfelt greetings that we're discussing here, and almost all of them involve vital organs. You're exposing your neck, you are touching your heart, you are doing something in a way that shows your mortal vulnerability, almost as if we're biologically expressing ourselves through these very vital and important areas of our body, where we know that something were to happen here, it's over.
I trust you.
That's right. A very interesting way of expressing these. Let's continue to our next paragraph here. Some cultures have more intimate customs for greetings.
Okay, what are they?
For example, in Western Europe, especially France, people often lightly kiss each other's cheeks when they greet to promote familiarity.
And that takes some getting used to. And I have heard from some Taiwanese that they take advantage of the situation with pretty girls.
I will say this is very common with like real old school Italian families in America too. It's not everywhere, but real old school traditional Italian style families will still do the kiss thing.
We did it as grandchildren and grandnieces and nephews with my relatives who go back to Germany and Sweden.
Okay. In New Zealand, the Maori bring their foreheads and noses together in a sacred greeting called a hongi.
To know what it is, just Google it or go to YouTube and look it up and you can see it performed.
Sacred means very holy. It's quite a strong word, not something you would regularly use. In some Inuit cultures of North America's Arctic regions, family members often engage in a traditional greeting known as a kunik, where one rubs their nose against the other's cheek while quickly inhaling air several times.
Okay, now I watched the video for this and I'm going to perform it because you can hear it with audio. So you get close to the cheek of the other person, you put your nose on their cheek, and then you go You can hear it. So you take in breaths very quickly and loudly while you're moving your nose up and down on their cheek.
And while this may seem amusing to us, but think about it. Is it any more awkward than a kiss, which you put your lips against someone and suck in air? Like, if you were an alien to describe this, doesn't this sound weird? I do something with my wife I call the reverse kiss, where I'm being silly. Instead of sucking in, I'll go to her chick and blow out and just boom, right against her. And I call it reverse kiss. It's like flipping this thing that we accept as normal. It's not really all that different than this, is it?
And all of these went out of fashion during the pandemic.
And by the way, we should mention that the word Inuit is a more polite word for Eskimo, which is a word you might still regularly see, but you should avoid. Eskimo is kind of out of fashion. You should say Inuit.
It's not politically correct. And there are actually different tribes with different languages, like the Inuktitut. Keep in mind that it is not just one single group of people. Okay, our last paragraph. Remember, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and that is true. So that's why we mentioned it's better to be prepared ahead of time. If you are going into a different culture, it can happen in your own country. Like if you go over to a dinner or a party at the friend of somebody who comes from another country like India or whatever, good to find out ahead of time. It's a good idea to learn about foreign customs on how to greet people in a friendly and appropriate way. We've already mentioned that. If you're unsure about the proper procedure, then just ask for clarification or go to YouTube. You can usually get good information there, reliable, provided by native speakers. After all, a respectful greeting can greatly influence the relationships we build. I totally agree with that. And like I said with France, it's crucial. You may not get fresh bread if you don't say bonjour. Yeah.
You brought up something that I was considering while I was preparing for today's article. What will COVID's legacy be on our greetings? Now, I think that long-term, these traditional forms of greeting will still remain. I do think, however, what COVID may do is incorporate new ones which may last longer. So you mentioned that like closely breathing to someone's face may fall out of fashion, or it may come back over time as COVID kind of fades into the background.
And then the next big one comes along.
That's right.
Next pandemic.
Handshakes kind of disappeared. Fist bumps kind of disappeared. But one thing that I did see were elbow taps. And so
people still do that.
People still do this, although it is not as common. I wonder if it won't remain.
I guess time will tell.
So, Karen, do you have a particular handshake that you go for when the occasion arises?
No, I have a very plain handshake, which I don't use often.
I want to feel it.
There we go.
Okay.
My hand is cold. See, that's one reason why I was frostbitten when I was in Minnesota. I have poor circulation in my feet and hands, so I often have clammy hands, and that's one reason I avoid it.
I didn't feel it was clammy. It did feel cold, though. I will say that.
It's just normal.
When I handshake, I enjoy to reach out, and I will hold the person, but I'm going to hold you longer than you want to. I'm purposely going to do this. When I intend to do it and I want to be sincere, people pull their hand away quickly like you did. I held it and pulled it, right? I didn't let you go, and I put my hand over the top.
Yep.
I want people to know if I'm greeting them and I'm meaningful about it, I'm going to let you know. When I was younger, I was an especially sarcastic, loudmouth person. Maybe in some situations I still am. However, as I've aged, I've learned to embrace sincerity.
Yeah.
And I try to meaningfully do these things when the occasion arises. And so you could that reaction is very normal, where I'll hold that hand a little bit longer than people are expecting to, because I think it almost creates a mental footnote in your mind. It's different. You weren't expecting it.
You're right.
And it allows us to connect a little better.
It makes me a little uncomfortable because I'm really careful with that. Like I said, I have a lot of male friends. I do not want to be giving any signals that whatever. I'm not going after you.
So I hope people don't have that. I usually do it with men especially. I'm very aware of not touching a woman. But I suppose we have a second date to discuss this further.
Okay. So make sure you tune in then. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.